All right, there is another new kit from ByTheWell4God for the month of October, Twisted Scripture. And like I've been doing in past months, I'm going to share with you guys what I've pulled together in my cart to use for this month. I have been loving this process of using a utility cart to kind of store everything in, new products, the kit products, some things from my stash, some new medium study tools, everything all in one spot. So let me take you over to my desk and we'll go through each section of this cart for Twisted Scripture. All right, so what you see here on my desk right now is everything that's in the top tier of my cart. And this is kind of my go-to, grab it, little bits and pieces, lots of ephemera, the stamps from the new release from ByTheWell4God, and those kind of things that I tend to be reaching for quite frequently. And I leave a little bit of space up there so I can leave, scraps of fabric or papers or ephemera pieces or little things that I kind of pull from my stash as I'm working throughout the month can get thrown into the top tier. So I keep the new stamp sets up there. Now, for those of you who are waiting for the restock, that is coming very, very, very soon. I do not have a date quite yet, but it is like just around the corner, like possibly this week, the release of this video, the ones that sold out will be re-released. So be sure to be signed up for the email list from ByTheWell4God. They'll let you know as soon as those are released. But I like to keep the new ones up on top just because I want to use these since they're new. I, of course, pull things from my stash. I like to reuse things from my stash, but I want to be intentional about getting some use out of the new products before they just get filed into my stamp storage. So I keep all of those up on top. Sometimes I'll keep other stamps that I use really, really frequently up on the top as well, but this is mostly going to be the new stamps, and you can see I am already putting them to work. So you will be seeing videos coming out on my Instagram. I'm trying to put those here as well, the shorts and reels videos as I create those, and so you will be seeing that. But obviously I'm already putting things to work. So those sit right on top of my cart, and then I have a couple of little trays. One of these is from the Target dollar spot. That's not a dollar. You walk in there and spend like $50 on a handful of things, but this was a tray from that. And then I think I got this one from Hobby Lobby. Just any kind of small little trays go into the plates section of your stores, and little, sauce dishes or things like that were great for kind of just storing your little ephemera pieces. In this one, I primarily have the ephemera from the Twisted Scripture devotional kit, and I will go through and cut off. I like to have a smaller border, so I'll go through all at once, sit down and cut off all those borders. I have the little scripture card in there just as a layering piece if I want to use it. And then I have the kit sticker that I had cut down. I was going to use this in my growth book, but it didn't make it into there. So I've already got that, cut and ready to use if I want to use it on a project. And then a stamp. So this is the stamp that was in the freebie packet. For those who spent over, I think it's $35 before tax and shipping and all of that, you got an extra little stamp goodie. So I've got that. And then I pulled out the stamp from last month also, this little ticket with a warning hazard reference. I thought this would go with this month's kit as well, since we're talking about, handling scripture with care and warning about misusing certain scriptures. And so I thought that would be a good piece to use. So that's got the kit stuff. And then in this one, I don't typically have two trays. I do have a couple cards. These are the backer cards from the flash cards. So I've got those to punch out and use things for. But these are a whole bunch of acetate stickers that I got at the retreat. So my friend Susan shared these with us. She had a set with mushrooms. So I went through and just picked, I think, a couple mushroom ones out of there. And then she had these with florals and greenery. I think I found these on Amazon when I was looking. So I'll link what I found down below if this is something that you guys want. They are a sticker. So you just kind of have to flick the edge until you can pull off the backing. And then they are a sticker, which is great because acetate can be really difficult to adhere into your projects because it's clear. So you can usually see adhesive. So you want to add adhesive to the entire back side of it. And so it is nice that these are already sticky. My plan for these is to actually use these with the specimen die from Tim Holtz. This is kind of sold out everywhere. If I can find it, it'll be linked down below. But I like to cut out 2 windows out of this. And then you may have seen last month I used some of the clear stickers in there to create a little window with that specimen in there. And I thought these would be good for that as well. They are larger, so you'll only see bits and pieces of it, but then I could get more than one out of them. Also, I could kind of cut them apart. But I thought maybe just using, I love this one, using a little bit of that peeking through that specimen die would be really pretty. But you could also use them as decorative elements on your pages or tags or journal or whatever you're using. So I have a few of those that she had shared, and so I've got those in this separate piece as well. But maybe you've got other ephemera from other companies. It's kind of nice to have them, I don't know, separated just for my mind and my sake. I like having, you know, 2 different trays going with those different products. So there is that. And then in there, I also have just some of these little pots. I have these ones from Felicity Jane that held the mini wide paper clips. Sadly, Felicity Jane is going out of business. That was announced while we were away at the retreat, and I haven't been able to announce that with you guys yet. Felicity Jane is going out of business. I do believe they will have a going out of business sale. So be sure to be popping over there so that you can grab maybe some of the little bits and pieces, like the mini wide paper clips are a staple of mine. And I kind of did a search online to see if I could find anything equivalent to these, and I couldn't really find anything equivalent. So if you guys know of something that is similar to these, please let me know. These are so, I just love them. They're like fat and tiny, and they're just awesome. So I pulled out the silver ones. I think I had these from last month also, because I'm going to antique these. So using alcohol inks to change up the color of them to use this month. And then I've filled a couple of pots with some pieces from Tim Holtz. I have the little safety pins and the little bulldog clips in here as well. And so I can use those. But then I did also find these pots at Hobby Lobby that I used for the retreat for storing some of my mediums. And so this is a great alternative if you don't have these ones from Felicity Jane to store your little, you know, hardware pieces. These are the little mini brads from Tim Holtz, so I have those in there as well. So it's just some little hardware bits in containers up on the top. And I guess this would be a good time to share how I'm going to be documenting before we go through the rest of this, for it to kind of make sense, because you may be looking at, you know, some of these chunkier, like the bulldog clips, and wondering how that's going to work in my Bible. Now, in the unboxing video, I mentioned that I was possibly going to be doing memory decks cards. And the more that I thought about it, as much as I love memory decks cards, it just is not quite enough space for me to create on. But I do want something that I can create a lot of different pieces this month, because I really love the graphics and the kit contents and things like that. So I've decided I'm going to do tags. I'm going to do like a tag ring, I think. I know that isn't for everybody. My goal, and I always have lofty goals at the beginning of the month, is to do little reels and shorts for the tags, and then every Friday continue to have a Bible journaling process as I work through this kit. So I'll be working through my Bible. There should hopefully be 4 process videos in my Bible for that, and then I'll be doing these smaller tags. That's my goal. Don't know if it's going to happen, but I do really love this kit and want to create as much as possible while also offering you guys the content that you guys want. I know you prefer Bible journaling over the other projects, but I thought it would be fun to create on tags. So I have the distress tags from Tim Holtz, and so these are a mixed media heavy stock tag, and so I can just go crazy. I'm doing a lot of my study in my growth book, so I don't need to be putting a whole bunch of notes and things on here. I'll probably just be putting, you know, the verse, maybe a little commentary or a quote, and then just using this as a place to creatively play. So that is why I pulled out some of those chunkier elements, because I'm creating on the tags. I can use these chunkier bits that I wouldn't use necessarily in my Bible. So distress tags are in here, and that's what I'll be creating with. So also on the top tier, I have kind of a little corner. The left-hand corner ends up being my like fabric texture corner. So I have the fabrics from the release, as well as the bow clippies in here. I usually deconstruct these, but I have them all kind of pushed together so that I, you know, don't forget that I have this up there. And it is kind of nice that it creates little pockets so you can kind of stick all your little fabric bits in there. So I've got that. I've got a couple rolls of the fabric washi from Tim Holtz, this kind of ledger tape one, and then this floral. There isn't any of this dusty blue in the kit, but there is that pop of really bright red, that mustard yellow, the greens. So I figured I'd be able to kind of make it work. And this is, you know, linen fabric tape, so you can color this. So if I wanted to spray it with spray inks and darken it up, I definitely could do that as well. So just adding lots of texture to those tags. I also pulled out a few different washies. I don't use a ton of washi when I'm creating, so I'm trying to use up my stash. And so by pulling out specific ones that go with the kit, kind of brings it to my, you know, forefront of my mind. I have it right there, so I can try to use little bits and pieces here and there. I know this one is from Felicity Jane, and super sad that they're going out of business because I'm going to have to find grid washi from someplace else. I think I have 3 rolls backup because that's really the only washi that I use is the grid washi. And then I think this yellow one is Felicity Jane. I think actually all 3 of these are Felicity Jane now that I think of it. That rusty red and a yellow polka dot. I don't think these other ones are, you know, available any longer. But like I said, if I can find things, they will be linked down below. Part of this whole cart thing is trying to use up some of my stash as well. So maybe you don't have these identical ones, but you have something in your stash that's similar. And this is just to kind of remind you of that, pull it out, put it in a place where you use it instead of just buying products, filing it away, and then we're just collecting, not using. This has continuously been in my cart and obviously has not even been opened or used. So maybe this will be the month, is this frayed edge canvas trim that I got at Hobby Lobby. It's like a ribbon with a frayed edge and canvas that you can stamp on, you know, stain, color, do whatever. So again, hoping that I will get a chance to use that this month. Sometimes things don't get used, even though it's on the top part of my cart. I have most of the mediums in the second tier, but I do keep this little cup up on the top that has paintbrushes and pens and pencils and water brushes, things like that. But I also keep my crayons up there. I do have a nonstick craft sheet. I get a lot of questions about this because I don't always mention it, but you'll see it in my videos. This just protects my surface that I'm creating on. This is a smaller one. They have a larger one that I will link down below that you can cut into smaller pieces. These are great for laying in between your Bible pages so that you're not getting mess on the underside pages, but also it's nonstick, so it's really easy to clean up if you're messing with, you know, inks and pastes and glues and things like that. It's not going to ruin your table. So I've got one of those in the top. For colors, I've got, actually I will list the colors in a second because I don't have all of the Distress crayons for the color palette this month, but I do have Distress crayons and then the Neo Color 2 crayons in here. For the Neo Color 2 crayons, these colors were pulled from ByTheWell4God's. They do like a post with color swatching for you guys. So we have Russet, Raw Sienna, Scarlet, Ochre, Saffron, Olive, Golden Yellow, and Burnt Sienna are the colors that they suggest for the kit. Some of these are redundant. I don't necessarily need the crayons and the Neo colors and the Distress watercolor pencils, which I have in there also, but I pull those for your guys' sake to share with you guys what colors I have pulled. Again, the Distress colors I'll mention in a second because I don't have all of those colors. I also have a Slick Writer pen. Actually, this is not a Slick Writer. Yes, it is. Slick Writer Gold. Okay, so I got online to order the Slick Writer black pen that I use from scrapbook.com, and I don't have it right here, but they were all out. It's been out of stock. So while I was over there, I did grab the gold and the rose gold. These say opaque metallic ink marker, but they do also say Slick Writer on here as well. Acid-free, permanent, waterproof. And so I pulled this as just maybe adding some gold accents to the kit this month. It is, you know, kind of a bullet tip nib. So I'm just trying that out. The Slick Writers do tend to bleed through Bible pages. I use these for writing over slick surfaces like clear stickers and things like that, but you can also use it on other surfaces. Just know it's going to bleed through Bible pages. And then I just have pen, pencil, all that goodness in that little cup up there. Okay, and then moving on to this storage container, you guys know is a favorite of mine from Target. I know many of you guys have picked it up as well. Many of you had suggested alternatives because I was having a hard time finding an additional one for my other cart. I have tried a whole bunch of different ones. I've looked at a bunch of different ones. The reason I like this one is because this back main compartment holds 12 by 12 pattern papers, and I like the profile. It's a lower profile. I'm trying to think if the one from IKEA that I've used, I'll link that down below, is a little bit larger, taller, has more compartments. It's just a bigger unit. So I really like the size of this. It's perfect for storing, you know, kit products as well as some other, you know, bits and pieces, papers, things like that. And I like this one. So I was able to find a second one in the store, but they can be a little bit tricky to find. So I'll link it down below for you guys, but keep an eye out at your Targets. If you have one, snag one. They are just a really great piece and they fit nicely in the cart. That was another thing, is I like that it doesn't take up the whole width of the top of my cart. So then I've got room on the side to store stamps or other little bits and pieces, you know, next to it on the top. So all that to say, I've got mostly pieces from the kit stickers, you know, the freebie pieces, this kit stamp, the devotional, you know, things like that. These are the label stickers, alpha stickers, paint card, journaling cards all go in this pocket right here. And then I've got some other pieces that I have pulled. So for additional things, now definitely don't need this because there is plenty in the kit, but again, I've picked up things. I'm trying to use up stuff from my stash. So I have the Field Notes ephemera pack from Tim Holtz. There's also the Field Notes snippets, which are the smaller itty bitty ones. I do have those as well that I'll probably pull, but this has lots of mushrooms and bugs and butterflies, florals, really matches this kit. Now you have plenty of die cuts. You also have the printable versions, so you don't have to have this, but maybe you have it and you want to mix it in with the, you know, pieces that you're using. So I've got that. I also have picked up for this kit a few pieces from 49 and Market. I got the 49 and Market Curator's Meadow ephemera bits. This one didn't have mushrooms, but I liked the colors. It kind of has that orange and the greens, that ochre yellow color, but then it just had different pieces in it than the other ephemeras. It has frames, it has tickets, it has little note cards, so just different shaped, oh, there are some mushrooms in here. But for the most part, I was looking at like the tabs and labels and frames and things like that that you don't necessarily get in the Tim Holtz packs. So this is the Curator's Meadow ephemera bits. And then I also got the laser cut elements from 49 and Market. This does have mushrooms in it, little note cards, sayings, little labels, leaves. I mean, it's just got lots of fun little bits. I have not really looked into the differences between the ephemera and the laser cut, other than it does look, these don't really have a border. So these are cut right up without a border like these have. But other than that, I'm not quite sure what the difference is, but there are several sheets in here. Like I said, these are pretty new to me. I had ordered these a few months ago before the they announced that they were doing this theme for the ByTheWell4God kit, and so it just really worked perfect. These are cut right up to the edge, and they are like really delicate pieces. So that's probably a big difference, is that like there is no border. This is cut with no border. There's little critters, greenery. I mean, they are just really, really beautiful. And they are on like a regular cardstock, like the ephemera is, but I just think that they're cut without a border. Obviously, they are just popping right out of there. Love this gate and the bird cage, but you can see note cards. So like this, where you're getting, you know, all that detail cut out, you don't always get that in ephemera pieces, because ephemera usually has a border to it. There's labels and, you know, all kinds of really fun pieces. And then even the backer sheet, you can cut apart or use as well, which is really nice. So that is the laser cut elements, and then here are the ephemera bits, and you can see this does have a border, so just a little bit different there. You guys have seen this one. This is the Curator's Meadow rub-on transfer set. I've used this a couple times and had it in my cart a few times, but it's got some pieces that will go well with this kit. Not so much the blues, but there are some greens and yellows, that little fox with that pop of orange. These are the rub-on transfers, so they are you just use like a stick or a stylus. You expose, pull away the backing, place it on your project, and then you rub over the top and it transfers it to the page. So different than a sticker, it just looks like it's part of the project that you're working on. So there were just some fun texture elements in there that I thought would be good for this month. And then some mummy cloth. I'm not sure if they brought this back this year. This can be a little bit tricky to get your hands on because it's the Halloween exclusive from Tim Holtz, but you can also use cheesecloth. You don't have to buy this specifically. It is nice that this is already kind of like frayed and messy and in smaller little pieces, but it is dyeable, so you can use, spray stains and inks and things like that to change the color. I just really love this particular texture for fall projects. I don't know what it is about this. It just, burlappy cheesecloth just reminds me of fall. So I've got those in there. I've got those tags. I've also got some stencils. So I've pulled out some older ones from ByTheWell4God. Here we go, this works. So this is a way older one. You can see the style is totally different. This was for one of their, I think, Easter kits, has these like palm fronds, but I liked the greenery to maybe add some texture with this kit. There was this acorn and leaf one from last fall. There is a couple different, I think Tim Holtz has one maybe similar to this as well. So whatever I can find, I'll link down below because I don't think this one's available any longer. But if you've watched my video where I do dry embossing with a stencil, this would be a great one to do that with, or, using as a traditional stencil, but really love that. There's a few acorns in the kit this month. And then Momentary Affliction. Again, I'm not sure which ones of these are available, but this just really has a fun scripture text and a seal, just for adding, backgrounds and texture to my tags. And then Tim Holtz ones, I have the mini set 3, really loving the, kind of rings and the ink spots because we're going for that kind of vintage journaling paper look. I have autumn layering, of course, lots of leaves. Let's see, speckles for some vintage texture. Pulled lattice work. This is a newer one that I just got. I love the technique of using texture paste and embossing glazes over it and getting that kind of crackly tile look. And so this lattice work one I thought would be good for that. Floral is a favorite of mine, of course. It really reminded me of the wild roses that are in this release. So there's that one. And then, of course, the two that came that you can get with this release, Clearview and Troubled Leaves. So lots of stencils. Again, I most likely will not use all of those, but just having them there so that it reminds me that I have them and trying to be intentional about using my products. So that is everything that's in this top tier of my cart. So let me clear this off and I'll pull out the second tier for you guys. All right, so here is a little bit of the second tier. Now the second tier, I keep most of my mediums as well as my dies, stamps, and embossing folders that I've pulled from my stash to coordinate with this release. So I'll pull out those stamps, dies, and embossing folders here in just a minute, but I wanted to walk through these first. I like to use these Y-weave baskets from Target. They come in a variety of different sizes, and they're just great for creating smaller sections in your utility cart. So for mediums, this color palette is mostly from ByTheWell4God, though I did add one additional color. For the distress colors, I'm using this color palette for everything distress, whether it is embossing glazes, spray stains, paints, crayons, the new watercolor pencils. This is the color palette that I am using, so it just makes it nice and consistent. So we have Candied Apple. Crackling Campfire is the color that I added in. It's a little bit more of an orangey red than Candied Apple. Spiced Marmalade, Fossilized Amber, Peeled Paint, Iced Spruce, tea dye, gathered twigs, and antique linen. I may also add in a little bit of rustic wilderness. So I try to add in colors that are kind of different tones of these colors as well when I'm doing like inky backgrounds and inking up something. I don't want it super flat, so I bring in a variety of different tones of that one particular color, but these are the main colors that I will be using. Now, these are the Distress Oxide ink pads, and then I just pull out the spray stains. I do have the oxide sprays behind me in my office if I want to use the oxide sprays, but typically I can kind of combine these two products. So if you're trying to go on a budget and not quite sure, which products to get, you can't buy all the colors of all the products, you can usually the spray stains are a more translucent, like deeper, richer color. The oxides have some opaqueness to them. They have pigment in them, so they react just a little bit differently. The color is a little bit softer, more velvety, and so mixing the two really creates some amazing effects. So if I'm coloring anything, whether I'm going to be spraying a tag and coloring the whole background, I would spray with the spray stains and then maybe smush out a little of the oxide on my mat and then dip my project into it. So I'm getting just a little bit of the oxide. I prefer the color intensity of the stains and inks. And so it's just easier to cover backgrounds with the sprays than the ink pads. So I just kind of combine these two products to get the look that I'm wanting. But I do have the oxide sprays also if I'd rather, pull those out. But that's kind of my thinking behind having the oxide ink pads in here and then the spray stains in that basket. And so then coming on over to this one, embossing glazes. Again, they don't have the entire color palette for the embossing glazes, but I just pulled out what I have. For a brown, I pulled out vintage photo, but I also pulled in a little bit of rusty hinge, and then, the other colors from the release. Like I said, I want to try that technique of doing the crackle embossing glaze through a stencil. So for that, I have some opaque crackle texture paste and then some grit paste. Again, fall is all about textures for me. And so I want something gritty, chunky. I'm working on those tags so I can really go crazy with textures. So I'll be using that with the distress. And then I've got a couple of foundry waxes. I have gilded and statue. I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to go super gold or a more antique gold, but I like using these for the edges of things, also going over the top of embossed textures. These are just really fun to play with. These have kind of been living in my cart. These are the 3 alcohol ink colors that I use to antique the paper clips, but I'll also be making some vintage tape again this month. I'll link that video down. It's like a little shorts video. I'll link that down below for you guys if you missed how I did that. I will be creating some more of that to go along. With this kit, I'm thinking of those vintage botanical journals, like where they would go out, study different botanicals, they would draw out the specimen, take all their little notes. That's kind of what's in my mind as I'm pulling things and thinking about how, the design I want to create. So I have caramel, latte, and ginger alcohol inks for coloring and tinting things. Definitely don't use these on your Bible pages or things like that. I'm mostly using these to color non-stick or non-porous products. Okay, for the VersaMagic inks, again, this color palette is from ByTheWell4God suggestion. These are great because they're a pigment, so they don't typically bleed through Bible pages. So you don't necessarily need both these and the Distress inks, but they just do different things. So I have wheat, red magic, pumpkin spice, jumbo java, gingerbread, hint of pesto, tea leaves, and thatched straw. And so you can use these with like the smushing technique where you add water. You can blend with them with a blending brush if you want to. They just are not quite as water reactive as the Distress products, but they don't bleed through like the Distress products. So if you're going to be investing in one type of ink, you may want to go with this if you're concerned about bleed through. So there are the mediums that I have pulled together for this month. So let me clear this off and then we will get the giant stack of stamps, dies, and embossing folders. Okay, so this is way more than you need to work through this kit, but a lot of times I'll pull things, even though I know I'm personally not going to use it, to maybe remind you guys of something that you have in your stash that maybe you want to use. So I kind of go overboard with pulling from my stash. Also, I just have a lot of things that I haven't had a chance to play with yet. I want to play with. Fall is difficult because you just have a short window of time to use your fall products. And so and fall is my favorite. So I pull lots of fall. That way I can try to use it up in this, short few months that we have where we can do leaves and acorns and things like that. So for Let's start with dies. I love dies for creating my own ephemera, especially when you're working on tags. You can do different techniques where you are die cutting straight from the tag and creating like a window out of it. And so they're just really fun. I know they're an investment, but they are something that I love using, and I hate fussy cutting. And so I'm able to create some little pieces I can use easily. So this is a new one that I just picked up. This is Leafy Twigs. I found mine severely discounted at Hobby Lobby. I know that they were pushing out a lot of product before all the new product came in. So you may still be able to find this at your local Hobby Lobby for really reduced. If not, I'll link it down below. So it cuts out this frame of leafy twigs that you can use, you know, the whole panel, but you can also go through and just cut little bits and pieces of it and use it as a texture over things. And so I love that you could even do, you know, kind of popping out, put something behind it like an old book page or something like that. You're going to get to see that through this layered over the top. So I really love this one. Like I said, it's new. I haven't gotten any chance to use it yet. So definitely have that right in the front. These are a staple, of course. You guys have seen these over and over and over again. I know that they are working on trying to restock these. You just kind of have to search, you know, out the corners of the internet to see who may still have some of these available. If I can find them, I will link them down below. But these are the newer ones from Tim Holtz. This is Postal. So I really love the envelope in this one. I also love that you can make your own stamps. I like the little number pieces if I'm going to be cutting out numbers. There's these label pieces. These are actually meant to be cut out of the front of the envelope to create little windows, but you could also use them as labels. So just really great general die set. This one is going to be super popular with this kit because of that specimen die. So this is the specimen die set, and it has that little specimen piece in there. I love, love, love that particular die. But then you also have great ones for specimen. You've got specimen, collect, filed, archive, recorded, series. So little words that you actually punch out. So it doesn't create like a rectangle with that word. It's actually punching that word out of the background. So you can kind of layer it over, like maybe you want to punch it out of the tab, punch it out of the bottom of your specimen die. Same thing with these numbers. You've got labels, you've got different little card pieces that you could also punch out windows out of your file folder. I don't know that I'll necessarily be using the file folder this month since I'm working on the tags, but that's another great die that's in there as well. And then this is vintage labels. This one's really fun because you can ink up the die before you run it through your die cutting machine, and it'll emboss or deboss the ink into the texture of the die while cutting it out. And so there's a variety of different shapes. Really great. Love this one. Anything vintage. This one here is entomology, and there is a matching stamp for that. Now there is the bug. Let me find it. This one, there is Examine Closely that ByTheWell4God released with these bugs. So if you've got this one, you do not need this. This is doubling up. You've got plenty of little bugs in here, you know, and you've got that really fun magnifying glass, but this is a set that I already have. So I'm trying to use things that I have. And the dies for this one cut right up to the edge, so you don't have a border. I will maybe do a video showing a trick for how to get a good result with this. I've done it in the past, but I'm not quite sure where I showed it at. Creating like a little template so that it's kind of hard to line up the die because it cuts right up to the edge of the bug. But this is more kind of line drawn bugs that I thought would be fun to go along with this. And like I said, there is the coordinating entomology stamp set. They don't always do this between Stampers Anonymous and Sizzix, but there are a few where they've done these matching sets. And this one also has this great kind of scripty letter piece in there as well. So pulled that one. There aren't a ton of butterflies in this release that I've seen, but you know, when we're looking at specimens and botanicals and things like that, these are a couple of dies that I don't use terribly often. This is Detailed Butterflies Mini and Scribbled Butterflies. This one has, I believe it cuts the solid and the detail are two different pieces, and this one's just that detailed butterfly. So here are those. With the wildflowers that are in there, there's Wildflower Stems 1 and Wildflowers Stem 2 or 3. I don't have all of them, so 2. So this is Wildflower 1 and 2. I believe there's also a number 3. These are really tall, thin dies that I thought would be fun for adding to those tags, because those tags, you know, are a little taller than like a memory dex card or something like that. These would fill in a spot really nicely on those tags. So have those too. Fall, we've got fall foliage with all the little leaves that are in there. There's also a little branch. I love this one. This is skeleton leaves, so it cuts out these little delicate leaf pieces. And then this one, another favorite, leaf fragments. Really love this. So these are great for cutting out of the patterned papers this month. And since the, the front is a design and then the back side is more neutral, you could very easily cut these out of the neutral side and then just add some inking or some splatters to dress them up. So great way for using your patterned papers. So there are the dies that I have pulled out. And then for embossing folders, every month I swear I'm going to remember to do samples. But that didn't happen. You know what? Let me make some samples and I'll show you samples of the ones that I pulled. All right, hopefully this gives you a better idea of what these embossing folders look like. So these are the 3D embossing folders from Sizzix and Tim. I think they're all Sizzix and Tim Holtz. This one here is a favorite of mine. I think this is lumber. I forgot to write on this one, but all I did was ran some colored paper through and then just wiped a dark brown ink over the top so you could see the texture. This one I love. I do have a video where I use this when I was creating a Word Study Wednesday little booklet. So I'll link that down below. You can really go crazy with making this look like real distressed wood. So again, love textures for the fall. So this one is a must-have. This one here, again, I did not write on it, but it will be linked down below. This one has a leaf texture. I'm not sure if all of these are still available. Again, I'll try to link them if they are, but this one adds this really great leaf texture. I like to use this one with those different leaf dies, like this one in particular, fall foliage. It doesn't add a lot of texture to the leaves. They're pretty flat, so I like to cut out the leaves and then I kind of lay them in here, running them through my embossing machine, and it adds all of this fun veining texture to the leaf. So there is that one. This is a newer one from Tim Holtz. This is Acorns. I use this in my review of the watercolor pencils, the distressed watercolor pencils. So it's got leaves and acorns, really great fall one there. You could also achieve this with the stencils. If you emboss, I'm trying to find a stencil. If you emboss with the stencils, you can get that similar look. There's that one from By the Well that I had shared. That was the leaves and acorns. This one right here. So not identical, but if you use the stencil and ran it through your embossing machine, I do have a little shorts video where I show how to do that to emboss with stencils. You could get a similar look. So you don't need to have both, but I love the texture that these 3D embossing folders add. This one here is Botanical. This is just a really beautiful, classy piece. So I did it on a dark cardstock and then just ran some gold ink over it. I am discovering I don't love the papers from scrapbook.com for this. These are the little scrapbook.com paper pads that have a variety of colors, and you can see they're a white core. And so if you have some cracking, you can see that white texture, which is not great. When you're using these, if you do spray a little bit of water on both sides of your paper before running it through, you do have less cracking, but this paper just isn't quite holding up all that great. But you can see the texture from that Botanicals set. It's just really, really pretty. I love this, just even using as like ripping and tearing little bits and pieces to layer behind things, and just adds a little bit of extra texture to your project. I have not labeled all of these fall ones yet. So this is another leaf texture. Now I found this is the direction that the folder is supposed to be used. So it kind of debosses the leaves into it, but you could also use it this way where you've got those leaves kind of popping out. So it's kind of hard to see with the way that it was inked, but this just has, it looks like a pile of leaves. So imagine if you used a darker cardstock and had a lot of, variance in your colors, used a lot of fall colors to ink up paper and then ran it through this, you'd have a really pretty kind of background piece there. So those are the embossing folders that I pulled for this month. Now let's dive into stamps, and I have a ton. So of course I just have some basics that you will see over and over and over again, which are the outliners. So I have regular outliner and caffeinated outliner. I mostly use these when I'm working in my growth book, which you'll see here in a minute, as well as the numbers for those. I use those in there, but they do pair with the alphabet stickers from ByTheWell4God. I pulled out luggage stamps, which I tried to organize these. I think that these are all ones that are still available in the shop, and then these ones here are not. So luggage stamps, I really love the seals on here. I may not necessarily use the actual luggage tag, but the seals make for really great little added details, especially if you emboss them with embossing glazes or something like that. They really add some texture to your project. You've got DIY postage stamps. I like to create stamps to kind of layer in paper clusters. These do come with some elements that you can stamp in there, or you can mix these with some of your other stamp sets. So just go through your stamp sets. If you've got little smaller elements that will fit in there, you can kind of create stamps to pair with that particular kit. So DIY postage stamps. For florals, I try to pick things that have that, sketchy kind of line drawn look, not so like loose. See how these have like line detail and things like that. So noteworthy florals. This is from the Note to Self kit recently. These would be a great one to go with this kit. DIY garland, this one, it was from last year, it has a pine cone, and just this was more kind of wintry, so there are some pieces that kind of lend more towards winter, but there are some greenery pieces, but specifically I was going for that pine cone piece for this release. Forest Friends, so there are a couple of little critters in the die cut pieces, and so I really love the style of Forest Friends, one of my favorite ones. And there's also this kind of looks like a wood stump texture that would be really great to use, so I just thought that would be good one. If you painted your fox in that bright, kind of traditional orange fox color, that would really go well with the colors of this kit. And then Defined, I like having those scripty textures for this kind of vintage journal look of this release. So those all should still be available in the shop, so those will be linked down below. But then I've also pulled things from my stash that are older stamp sets. So this one here is titled Corinthians, but I think you guys have, it's titled something different. This was the one that was done for the Ukraine fundraiser. This one, we actually got at last year's fall retreat that Taryn did. Again, just really love having a good scripty texture. Fall florals, kind of just going for those really detailed floral pieces. This reminded me of the florals in here a little bit. So kind of similar style, similar look. Same thing with Creation in Bloom. Again, just detailed florals. Love this corner piece. I thought would be really great to use. And the nice thing about stamps is depending on how you color them, kind of can match whatever kit that you're working with. So just by adding in fall colors, this will go along with that. Glory flowers, again, really going with those florals from Grown Wild. You can see very similar but different, so pairs well together, or maybe you've got this one, pull it out, use it alongside this, and we'll create some fun layering, which I will be doing a shorts video showing you how to mask and layer these with the scripty fonts to create those collage images. So, and then I really love this bottom piece down here that's a repeating stamp. Autumn Blooms, really love the leaves in this one. Autumn Leaves, this one is great. It's not perfect match. They are different, but similar look. So you could pair these together with stamps and dies, kind of create some layered looks. Heaven's Flight, again, not really a whole, I see not a whole lot of butterflies. I don't know if there's a single butterfly in there, but we're going with bugs and things like that. You know what? There is probably a bug. Yes, one little butterfly in there. So pulling out the Heaven's Flight butterfly stamp. These are some more like cutesy critters, so I would probably go for more of the other critter stamp. But again, if you've got this one, pull it out, use it. There is even a little mushroom in there that looks like I didn't even use that last time. So that would be perfect for using with the stamp, postage stamp So you could create a little cluster of those mushrooms in there, but one of the smaller butterflies would fit in the postage stamp. One of the smaller leaves would fit in the postage stamp. So this is what I mean about going through your stamps and finding those smaller little pieces that maybe you kind of miss and don't use, pair really well with that postage stamp set to create your own ephemera pieces. But again, having just some little cutesy critters to go along with the kit. Place Your Faith, I picked this one for, of course, those drink splatters and stains. Great for creating your own kind of vintage papers with that distressing on there. Handwritten note, I really love this piece here with that note paper. Great for typing out verses or quotes or writing out your notes, journaling a prayer. So just a good piece there. Botanic collage. This one I believe is sold out, but this is what I was meaning about creating your own little clusters where you have the words layered with those florals. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of stamp masking and showing you how to kind of create your own version of this one. And then vintage fabric. I think I had this one last month also. It's just a really good texture piece for backgrounds and things like that. So those are all the ByTheWell4God stamps that I have pulled. And then I have a few of the Tim Holtz ones, of course. So this is a newer one. This is Leaf Prints 2. There's also Leaf Prints 1. This is the newer one. This one I think would be great for using with the new distressed watercolor pencils, dipping the pencil in the water, coloring on the stamp, and then stamping with it and getting really beautiful leaf prints. So I love that one. This is eccentric, just a good staple one. This just kind of lives in my cart with all of the little numbers and pieces like that are just really good for just adding some more interest to the background. Specimen. These are some larger stamped bugs, you know, really, really large pieces, but it is fun to stamp like half onto the tag. Or creating some large focal pieces to the front of the tag kind of coming off. So the nice thing about doing a tag ring is I can have fluff coming off the tag. I can layer two of them, create little pockets if I want to. So just kind of having some more fun with larger elements on these tags. Ledger script. Again, if you've got one of those stamp sets that has the script, you don't need this, but I'm just kind of giving you guys lots of ideas. These have two great ledger pieces on there. And then field notes, of course, that's kind of a no-brainer, I think, for this kit. You've got lots of great pieces. I did use this in my growth book when I was creating some label stickers, which you will be seeing a shorts video very soon for the process for that. But I used this stamp set as well as some others for that. So there's a look at everything that's in the second tier, quite a bit. So let me move this over and we'll get to the last tier, which should be pretty quick. All right, the bottom tier kind of becomes my catch-all for paper scraps and things like that, in addition to the top, but the bottom just kind of catches a little bit of everything. So mostly usually I'll have like my Bible that I'm working in down there. This month I have my growth book, just because I'm working on tags. I don't need to have my Bible down there as well. This is where I take all of the notes as I'm working through the devotional. You guys have been seeing this quite a bit here. I did post a quick video sharing some detail on how I colored in some pieces for this dashboard. I like just doing the dashboard for each kit just as a fun way to kind of play with some of the new products, but I also copy down the intro from the devotional in here. So I kind of have an idea when I come back years from now, looking at the notes, I'll also understand kind of the theme of the kit as I look at those notes. And so same thing for this month. I just wrote out, if I'd been thinking ahead of time, I would have ran this through my typewriter, but that just didn't cross my mind. So I'm using one of the dyed papers that I created. In the video, I show how the new distressed watercolor pencils play on this darker paper and stamping it, coloring it, and all that goodness. And then I use some of the new stamp sets from the release. I will be also posting a quick video showing how I do these labels for the titles and things like that. So this is kind of this is where I actually spend most of my time in the month is working through the notes. I use the alphabet stickers. I create my own stickers using the printables for the different quotes that and study notes that I'm putting in here. This month I just typed out the verse addresses on some more of the dyed papers. And so typically what I do when I'm working through the devotional is I come to the day. So day one, I've already highlighted all of the verses. So I've already typed all of those out. And then I go through and write out each verse in its entirety. And then in my MacArthur Study Bible, he usually has like a phrase from that verse down at the bottom and then has some commentary on it. So the floral stickers or mushroom stickers, those are MacArthur's notes, and I just underline the section of the verse in that corresponding color, so I know that this is commentary on that specific part of the verse. And then I go through, and if there's any other commentaries from David Guzik, Matthew Henry, quotes from Spurgeon, Sproul, any of those other theologians, those get written down in just a different color as well, and then I just indicate who it is that those study notes are coming from. So I go through and write out every single verse. I don't always take notes on every single verse, but I do look up the commentary for those. And then I come to the word study. So you can see I stamp out the Strong's Concordance number using those outliner stamps and then using some more alphabet stickers for the word that I'm studying. And so I've got all of those taken down. And then I go through and highlight. This is something I just started this month, highlighting those words that I did the word study. That way, when I come to here, I know which verses that these words came from in that day's study. So that is what I do for every single day of the devotional. So as you can imagine, I spend a lot of time in here. You can see it's just lots and lots and lots of notes, but that is going to live in the bottom of my cart. And so I have this little basket. So usually if I'm going to be kind of moving around my house, studying and working in my growth book, this little basket goes with me. And so I have got my colored Papermate flare pens. I just go through at the beginning of the month, pick out the ones that color coordinate with the kit. I have my Slick Writer scrapbook.com pen. This is what writes over those sticker paper. So when I have the label for, David Guzik or Matthew Henry, whatever, I write their name using this Slick Writer. You could also type those out ahead of time before you print it if you wanted to, but I just find it easier to do it this way. I have a pen that I'm using, the highlighter that I'm using. I also keep my little tweezers in here. I probably should get a second set so that I have one set in here and one set on my desk, but this just makes it easier for placing those smaller stickers. I've even gone ahead and preloaded up the 1 and the 2 because I'm using the alphabet stickers like these. There's no numbers. So when I'm doing the book and it's like 1 Corinthians, there isn't a 1, so I'll stamp the 1. So I just have those pre-loaded using the outliner numbers. And then I also have a G, and then I'll put an H here as well for the Strong's Concordance numbers. So those are just ready to go. And I have all those inks in my cart next to me, ready to be used as well. And then these were some file folders that I created using that specimen die from Tim Holtz. I got this idea from Taryn, Wonderfully Made Handcrafting. And so I've got a folder with the day number, and then I put everything in here that I need. So for instance, I've already done day 1, but day 2 has the word cards that go with that day. I have the scripture addresses that go for that day. I have the title for that day. So when I go to study, I've got everything right here. So if there's any like journaling cards or anything else that goes with that day, that all goes in this little file folder. And so I'm ready to study for that day. And then this, I just created an envelope using the pattern papers. And this has all of my little mini stickers. So for my study notes and quotes, I've gone ahead and pre-cut out all of those stickers. Now, if you have a cutting machine like a Cricut or a Silhouette, you could put that to work and have it cut it out for you, which is probably what I'll be doing from here on out. I just fussy cut mine from clear sticker paper, but then that way I've got everything. I don't need to have scissors. I'm good to go. Everything is pre-cut out. I sit down to study with my study Bible. I've got all of the pens I need, markers, highlighters, all that goodness. I did forget to add adhesive to my little typed out pieces, so I just got a roll of double-sided adhesive in here so I can stick those down nice and quick. I don't need to use liquid glue. So that's my little basket that stays with my growth book. And then underneath my growth book usually ends up being scraps of paper. So I have a couple pieces of the dyed papers that I used the distress ink to dye. I'll link that video down below. And so these, are just really great for typing something out really quick, cutting little pieces out as I work on my tags and in my growth book. So I have those. I have some carpet tape and some Scotch tape. Like I said, I'll be doing some more vintage tapes this month with the alcohol inks, and then I can use this to create fabric tape as well. So I'll be creating some more tapes this month. Then I have my little tins of archival ink. So rather than pulling out the specific colors, I just have 2 tins. These are specific archival ink storage tins that Ranger does. And so I've just got these because I'm going to be doing a lot of mixed media. Archival is really nice for stamping over mixed media type backgrounds and things like that. Also great for inking up those vintage label dies, and then die cutting with them, you want to use archival ink. So I've got my 2 tins of those. And then of course I have the new distressed watercolor pencils. I rearranged mine into rainbow color order, so they are different than the colors that they come packaged in. I do have a very detailed review of these. I'll link them down below. I am loving them. I am using them so much. And in fact, I'll also throw my little palette in there as well that I created. You can see as I was working with them the other day, I just dumped my little shavings in there. I need to go back and wet them. But I created a palette with them as well. So then I don't need a separate watercolor palette. I've got distressed watercolors ready to go. And I will be using these quite a bit. As you could see in my growth book, these colors really glow on those darker backgrounds, since most of what I'll be doing will be, brown vintagey backgrounds. These will be great. So these were stamped and then went in dry and then activated with water, the crayons, or the pencils, sorry, the watercolor pencils. And you can just see how bright and vibrant that is, even on this darker background. So really fun to play with this month. So of course I've got those in my cart as well. So there is a look at everything that I have pulled together for Twisted Scripture. Yes, it is way more than one person possibly needs, but I like to give you guys ideas as well. So if you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave those down below. Check out the description box. I'll try to link everything that is still available, or I'll try to find substitutes if I can. So check out that description box. I put a lot of effort into that box for you guys, different videos. I also put video cards up in the top right hand corner throughout the video. So I try to give you guys resources to everything I talk about during the video. So give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. And until next time, thank you so much. Bye-bye.